So let's look at a few basic concepts of CSS. First of all, make sure that you do have inside this HTML folder or wherever you're saving these files, make sure you have your index.html file, and that file should just have a standard HTML structure. I'm going to remove this form from down here so that we don't have too much in here. So remember, you need your doc type declaration, your HTML opening and closing HTML tags, as well as the head and then the body of this HTML document. And just make sure you have a few elements in there. You can even copy this down if you want to pause it if you lost your HTML work, and then refresh your page and you should be able to see those elements here. So make sure you have that, and then likewise make sure you are linking a separate style sheet. So in this same folder here, we have another file here that's called style.css, and we're linking to that file here. And so that's going to allow us to import all of our styles into this HTML document. Now, once you have all of that set up, you should be able to just look at both of them right here in Sublime. And I want to go over a few things. So just like HTML has these tags, right? So we have an H1 tag, and we have the closing H1 tag. And so therefore, anything inside of this tag is considered an H1 element, right? So we have these tags and the content inside of it, which we consider the element. We have an H1 element here, and it shows up like this, right? So that's easy enough. Now with CSS, we have what we call selectors. For every HTML tag that we can see here in an HTML document, we can have a CSS selector. So we can have an H1 selector just like we have an H1 tag, right? And so what that's going to allow us to do in our CSS is that anywhere that an H1 shows up in this document, we can assign certain properties. So we put properties inside these curly braces here. So this color right here with a colon next to it, that's considered a property. Okay? So we can change the color of this, and we can change its color property, the H1's color property. And then to the right of the colon is what we call the value. And then we just separate each new property with a semicolon. So this is how you kind of write it in one line. If you wanted to see it in multiple lines, you could do it like this. And this is typically the format. You'll have your selector, opening brace kind of on the same line, and then you'll indent inward and start writing your properties. And then you'll want the closing one, the closing brace, to be lined up with that first letter of the H1. And you'll see this as we start building out more of these. But just to add another property to this, you could do something like this. Say border 1 pixel, solid red. Now if I save that and refresh the page, you'll see this H1 has it. And so remember, selectors affect any of the same kind. So if I have multiple H1 tags, and just FYI, when you're writing an HTML document, you typically don't want more than one H1 tag per page. Remember, you want to reserve the H1 to be used once in a page, and it should be your main call out for the page. So just for practice purposes, we could have a second one here. Now if I save that and refresh it, you'll see it got the exact same styles assigned to it. So that's how we can get some style consistency. So every H1 that's going to show up, if we have a selector called H1 in our style sheet, and we apply some rules to it or some properties with the respective values, this is a value, this is a value, and these are the properties, then that's what we're going to see show up here in our file. So that's a little bit about how the basic selectors work.